Only in Kentucky could one small county have a river that disappears underground, send oil to light Buckingham Palace, and spawn a half-sheep monster legend. Hi, I'm Michael. I want to teach you a little bit more about Kentucky. One county at a time. All 120 of them. And today we're talking about Breckinridge County. Breckinridge County was officially formed in 1799 from part of Hardin County. It was named for John Breckinridge, a Kentucky statesman who became a U.S. Senator and later the U.S. Attorney General under President Thomas Jefferson. The county seat, Hardinsburg, was actually founded earlier in 1782 by a frontier fighter named William Hardin. At that time, this area was true wilderness on the Ohio River frontier. In 1780, Captain William Hardin first explored this region with a handful of companions. They floated down the Ohio and landed at the mouth of Sinking Creek. According to pioneer accounts, a band of Shawnee warriors nearly ambushed them in the woods. Hardin and his men narrowly escaped, and despite the scare, Hardin returned a couple years later with more settlers and built a small fort. That fort grew into the town of Hardinsburg. Life on the frontier, of course, wasn't easy there. In 1779, one of Hardin's men, Sinclair Hardin, was killed by Shawnee warriors at Big Spring. Native Americans' attacks were a constant threat in those early days, along with wild animals and harsh wilderness conditions. Settlers fought back when they could. In 1786, Captain Hardin led a band of local men to battle the Shawnee at Saline Creek in Illinois. They won that fight, which helped to make the region a little safer for the settlers there. Breckinridge County's landscape offered its own surprises. Fertile bottomland along the Ohio River made good farms for tobacco and grains, but the county also had rocky hills and a unique disappearing creek. One stream there, true to its name, Sinking Creek, actually vanishes underground for about 10 miles before resurfacing and flowing onto the Ohio. By the early 1800s, the county was slowly growing. In 1816, a young Abraham Lincoln traveled through Breckinridge County with his family. They were moving from Kentucky to Indiana, looking for a fresh start out west. The Lincolns spent a few weeks in Hardinsburg, where local folks gave them food and even, a cow for milk. When the family moved on, they crossed the Ohio River at Cloverport using one of the simple log ferries. As the 19th century went on, Breckinridge County began to develop industry in small ways. The Ohio River was the main artery of commerce before railroads arrived. The town of Cloverport, sitting on the Ohio, became a bustling river port. 10 miles upstream, a smaller landing called Sevensport also thrived as a shipping point for local farm products. In the 1850s, Cloverport opened one of the first coal oil plants in America. They mined a special coal and distilled it into lamp oil. In fact, oil from Breckinridge County was shipped to Great Britain to light Buckingham Palace. Nearby, a place called Tar Springs grew into a resort with a hotel. It had several mineral springs bubbling up in one spot, each with different tasting waters. People in the 1800s believed those springs had healing powers, so Tar Springs became a fashionable place to relax in the years before the Civil War. The Civil War brought turmoil to Breckinridge County. Kentucky was split between North and South, and Breckinridge County's own families were divided in their loyalties. In 1864, Confederate soldiers attacked Hardinsburg and burned the county courthouse where Union troops had been camped. Most of the important county records were saved from the flames, luckily, but of course the war's violence touched the area in other ways too. In 1865, a notorious Confederate guerrilla named Jerome Clark, better known by his alias Sue Monday, was captured just outside the county line, ending his bloody rampage. Many Breckinridge men fought in the war on both sides. One local, John Alexander McClelland, moved to Illinois as a child but became a Union general under Grant, fighting in major battles from Fort Donelson to Vicksburg. Another native, Joseph Holt, stayed loyal to the Union and became President Lincoln's, Judge Advocate General. He later led the prosecution of the Lincoln assassination conspirators in 1865. After the Civil War, Breckinridge County worked to rebuild and modernize. Tobacco farming remained a backbone of the economy, and Breckinridge was once among Kentucky's top tobacco-producing counties. Cloverport continued to be an important river town, though its coal oil industry died out once petroleum became the dominant fuel in the late 1800s. The age of railroads then brought new life to the area. In 1888, a railroad line was built across the county, connecting it to larger markets. A few years later, in 1892, Cloverport even landed a major railroad maintenance shop, bringing in about 200 jobs to town. Those shops burned down in 1916 and closed by 1929, but for a while, Cloverport was booming as a rail town. A new town called Irvington also sprang up along the tracks in 1889-ish. It was named after Irvington, New York, the hometown of the railroad's chief engineer. Irvington quickly grew into a little rail hub, and Hardinsburg and Cloverport carried on as centers of farming and trade. In 1878, Cloverport started its own newspaper, the Breckinridge News, to help keep locals informed. The 20th century kept Breckinridge County mostly quiet and rural, but not without challenges. A small Methodist school, Kingswood College, operated in the county from 1906 until 1934 when the Great Depression forced it to close. The county also endured disasters. In March 1901, a massive fire wiped out most of downtown Cloverport and left half the town homeless. And in January 1937, the Ohio River unleashed the worst flood in history, inundating about 70% of Cloverport underwater. And so through these trials, people pulled together and rebuilt. By the 1950s, a new project arrived, Rough River Dam. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began building the dam in 1955 and finished in 1959, creating a 5,100-acre lake for flood control and recreation. In 1959, the state opened Rough River Dam State Resort Park on the lakeshore. It gave locals and visitors a place to boat, camp, fish, and it's still a pretty popular summer spot today. The courthouse in Hardinsburg actually caught fire again in 1958, nearly destroying county archives. Thankfully, firefighters saved most of the records. Although the Breckinridge County Courthouse has endured 3 fires over the centuries, almost all the historical documents have survived. In 1984, the county established one of the nation's first county archive centers to preserve local records. On a lighter note, the Breckinridge County's high school boys basketball team became a powerhouse. They won Kentucky state championships in 1965 and again in 1995. The 1965 team, however, starred a player named Alfred Butch Beard, who went on to win an NBA title and later coach in the NBA. Beard was also one of the first black players that the University of Kentucky recruited in the 1960s, although he chose to play for Louisville instead. Like many Kentucky communities, Breckinridge County has had its share of legends and lore. One tale from the 1800s claims that a local family was tormented by a ghost in their farmhouse. And another tale that I really enjoy is that some locals swear that deep in the woods lives a creature they call sheep squatch. It's described as a 9-foot-tall beast covered in white wool with horns like a ram. In 2004, 2 county residents hunting in the woods claimed they encountered this monster at dusk. And according to them, it let out an ungodly, gut-curling growl and charged at them before disappearing into the woods again. Others in the county tell of ghostly lights floating in the countryside. Today, Breckinridge County remains mostly rural, with just over 20,000 residents. The county's population peaked in the 1890s and then declined. It was down to about 14,700 people in 1970. Farming is still important, but there are small manufacturers and growing tourism around Rough River Lake. Each summer, the Breckinridge County Fair in Hardinsburg brings everyone together for livestock shows, carnival rides, and a parade. Cloverport even hosts an annual Sacagawea festival in August, celebrating the legend that Lewis and Clark's guide, Sacagawea, might have visited there. In 2003, Cloverport opened a new riverfront park to give people a place to enjoy Ohio River views and honor the town's heritage. Rough River Lake and the Ohio River both draw visitors for fishing, boating, and camping, adding a little bit of tourism to the local economy. Uniquely, Breckinridge County sits right on Kentucky's time zone boundary. The county is on Central Time, but drive east into Hardin County, and you'll enter Eastern Time. So, that's Breckinridge County. What'd I get wrong this time?